Yeah, I'm thinking for this free for all Friday, I don't think there will be any issues with topics that people want to talk talk about. Prasanna's here, and Willie and John Hand, Era Sands, Japheth, Money Moore's back in, Lex, Sweet B, 16 Blue, Morpho, Armando, Niall, Michael, River, Super Mario, Luxbox, Cody, Mr. Seal. Yeah, guys, we're not gonna. There won't be any shortage of topics, and as the inevitable topics arrive with the whole thing at the Capitol and everything, at some point, I'll tell you guys something that I just because I live in a very rural, conservative area, the whole dynamic of how what happened and what inspired it, specifically what inspired it, that whole narrative around that in the media and from people in general is as far as I'm concerned, completely off base, and off base to a point that in a direction that is not going to point to any positives coming up for the country. It's just the I believe, and this is just from what I glean from the people around me, who many of them are of the same mind as, or this, I don't want to say same mind, but many of them have a complete understanding why the insurrection took place. And for those that think, well, Trump's going to be out, once we get him out, that'll change everything, you couldn't be more wrong. It may get worse. And yeah, it is a scary thumbnail, Paranormal Gaming Network. As we get into the stream, if you guys want, I will explain to you why. but yeah, it's, and I think that's going to be going forward. Hey, Jack, as more and more things, whatever they may be, take place, I think this misunderstanding is going to have a lot to do with how things play out, and if how things continue to play out poorly. And Cody says, Curtis, what's your opinion on playing South Park games if somebody voted them in on the Goosh? You mean sponsor them on the Goosh, Cody? Yeah, people can sponsor anything at all that they like on the Goosh. That's how we're playing several games, Disgaea and Horizon Zero Dawn. That's how we're playing all of those. Lick says, gee, I wonder what's happening in Funny Country. And Not the Cool Whip says, Curtis, goddamn, I look forward to this more than you can imagine. It's like visiting a favorite uncle. Well, thanks, I appreciate that, Cool Whip. Not like the uncle, the one that everybody just talks about. I could even be that guy in whispered tones is what I was going to say. Super Mario says Trump is a meanie bully bitch. But see, Mario though, and even if that's true, I think a lot of the problem we're going to have going forward is people, and trust me, this isn't in defense of Trump. It's just a misconception. People think that Trump is responsible for this rather than just being a conduit for something that was already there. And I think that's where we're going to run into problems going forward. Wolverine says hashtag Harambe for dictator of humanity.
Oh, yeah.
Lachlan says, I have a horrid cold, Curtis. I demand some Braxovich cheer me up. Sorry to hear about that, Val. I hate colds. Despise them. Alpha Squash says, I'm glad you're speaking your mind, man. You're a humble, respectful person. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. But again, it's and I'm just trying to let some of the notifications get out before I go into the whole thing. But I think it's a mistake to believe that Trump is responsible. I want to say this correctly. He absolutely inspired it. But to think that he is responsible for the emotions And the thought processes that brought this all into
Oh,
place is a mistake, because
yeah.
those things are going to exist long after Trump's gone. And they existed long before he got here. He just provided, as I said, a conduit for it. Mr. Host says, do you have HBO Max? No, I don't, my friend. Question for future potential Gooster sponsorships. Unfortunately, I don't, Mr. Host. No. HBO Max. I'm just trying to remember. I have, just because of the Goose, of course, I have so many different things I subscribe to, but no, I do not have HBO Max. No. Prasanna says, as an American, do you ever get desensitized to all the crap going on in your country? Good question. I think it's inevitable to a certain degree, in the respect that, and this is the very definition of desensitization, things that may have made me or may have made us go, what the fuck is that? Some years ago now just make us go, huh, look at that. Yeah, sure. I think some desensitization definitely takes place. Hey, Chrome. Oh, good. I was waiting to see if Chrome was going to be into it, just because we hadn't seen you in a couple days, Chrome, and you guys know, whenever one of you guys who is here typically every day misses a couple, I just get nervous. Especially poor Chrome, especially where she is, because you guys just went into hardcore lockdown, huh, Chrome? But I didn't see it for a couple days. Like, how hard did they lock Scotland down? God damn it!
Oh,
Demonic
yeah.
Gesture says, "Can you please react to anime Bofuri?" I don't. What's Bofuri, Jester? I've never heard of that. Yeah, that's well put, Ty. Trump didn't start the fire, but he stokes the flames. Yeah, that's yeah. In a nutshell, that's exactly what I'm saying. It goes even deeper than that, but yeah, that's exactly what it is. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are expecting when Trump is gone, it's going to be like, oh, everything's going to just go back to normal. Everything will be fine again, and we'll all link arms and sing kumbaya. And that's not going to be the case when Trump's gone. At least for the immediate aftermath, I think it's going to get intensely worse.
Oh,
Chrome says Trump's one of the only things
yeah.
preventing him from getting violent. Politicians have ignored and spat on people for decades now. They're pissed and are tired of being ignored. And what Chrome is saying, I think, is much more to the point. The people that did this, that were there at the Capitol that day, and the people that support them, they're lashing out against what they see as the definitive other side. This was way more about I hate you than it was I support him. Way, way, way more. Jack Queen says, the way I see it, I don't think Trump is responsible. More like responsible for his part in it. People make their own choice. Yes. Yeah, exactly, Jack. And I think, we've been
Oh,
live here for 8 minutes.
yeah.
Susan sent out some notifications. We can get into it more deeply. What I'm trying to say is, let me read this. I want to hear about Chrome's lockdown first, though. The new lockdown basically means I can't leave my home. It's till at least the end of January. Probably will be extended. Will be on lockdown on my birthday. That's sad, Chrome. Yeah, I thought of you immediately the other day when I saw that, when they said that Scotland just went into the hardcore lockdown. I haven't seen any indications yet, though. I'll tell you that for me, and I watched the numbers, that hardcore lockdowns are, at least in America, where the population is more condensed, where hardcore lockdowns are any more effective than just taking the normal precautions. Now, let's see what happens when this new, more easily transmissible virus takes hold here. But as of right now, I think the whole, social distance, mask, wash your hands, blah, 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 I think that works to the same effect as a hardcore lockdown. I don't see a difference. Jackson says, do you think the world will return the way it was before the COVID-19 event? And the world has never been so connected in history. The world had shut down. Yeah. I hope so, Jackson. I think it'll be close to it. I I think something like this, at least for a couple of generations anyway, will keep people more aware of the
Oh,
potential just for things like
yeah.
this, because it's been so long since we'd had a pandemic of this magnitude. Um, so I think, other than maybe altering the way we look at things a little bit, maybe being more conscious about just the simple things like keeping your hands clean all the time, and not becoming germ phobes, but more conscious, I think, just naturally about the potential for picking up something from someone else. Outside of that, I think we can, I believe we'll get back to a level of normalcy. And I just base this on what epidemiologists have said, what I read from them, in that typically with coronavirus strains, except for one, I believe they said, because we've had tons of coronavirus strains throughout the years.
Yeah.
Typically, once you beat them, once you get them to zero spread, they go away. So here's, with the way our luck's been lately, who knows, but here's hoping. If that's the case, then yes, I think we'll get back to near normalcy with maybe just a little bit of a different wherewithal about us. Blue Morpho, who do you think Dick Stretch is longer, Luffy, Mr. Fantastic, or Stretch Armstrong? Also, Susan is censoring super chats again. Yeah, Blue Morpho. And that drives me insane because, as I told you guys over and over, I have the option to censor chat if I want to on the channel. I don't understand why they even give us that option if they're just going to fucking do it anyway. Not Stretch Armstrong. He's a puss because he came out when I was a kid. And my cousin and I, of course, once you get a Stretch Armstrong, you have to see how much he can take. And I've seen Mr. Fantastic and Luffy exceed the lengths that Stretch Armstrong can go to before he just pops apart and all that goo comes out. So I can guarantee you it's not Stretch Armstrong. I'm going to say between the two, Luffy. I think Luffy's got the better stretch. Oh, Jester says it's a funny gamer anime, Bofuri, aka I don't want to get her, so I will max out my defense. Also known as I don't want to get her, so I'll max out my defense. I see, Jester, the thing is, I can't do any anime reactions on the YouTube channel, and of course everything at the Goosh gets voted in. So I don't know, because I hadn't heard of that one. Anything, if the comedy is quality in it, you know me, I'm game for anything like that, but I just haven't heard enough about it to think that it would get voted in. Okay, so let me get back to what I was going to say is, living among the people who have those very, very similar thoughts to those who raided the Capitol the other day, I can tell you that, as I had mentioned earlier, Trump provides a conduit for them. The feelings they have, the reason that they feel this way, and the reason, fuck off train, I believe in the large part. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some people who are Trump drones. There's no question. But I think it's a very small percentage of people that are just like, we are Trump, mega, mega, mega. There's a very small percentage of them. The vast majority of people despise what the other side to them brings. They're just fed up. They've had enough of PC culture right at the top. I know a lot of them have had enough of being called racists and xenophobes and all this, if they just honestly have a genuinely difference of opinion, like on border security. If they think the border should be secure and they get called racist, they've just had enough of it. They've had enough of, I know I hear this a lot too, of the idea of 87 genders. They've had enough of the extreme left, which dominates, unfortunately, for those who are center left or all are your more traditional liberals. It's the extremists that always get all the attention. And so that has become how people on this side see that side. They hate them. And that is the result of what happened the other day at the Capitol. Again, Trump provides a conduit for that. He's a lightning rod for it, absolutely. But now with him gone, I think they're going to feel a sense of loss that just makes them even more intense. I think there's little doubt about that. You're already seeing it. I know of groups that have started up in my area that meet once a week to discuss what to do in certain situations. I'm hoping that the new administration, I do think Biden is smart enough, Harris as well, to just relax a little bit right now. No matter what you do, let's leave the Second Amendment out of it. That's what I'm hoping they do, because these people that I'm talking about are waiting for that. And I think if they were to make any type of real attempt at anything that could be construed as an assault on the Second Amendment, I honestly believe what you saw at the Capitol the other day would look like child's play. I really do. That's how see, there's so much talk of civil war now and everything, and I read it all, and I see what people are saying, and mostly from the left, you hear people saying, which you would think would be rational. They say, well, these people don't understand what that actually means. They talk about a civil war all haphazardly. Do they understand that it's actual war, and that means, you could lose the people next to you. You could lose your electricity. You could be foraging for food, blah, blah, blah. All of that is true. What they don't understand is the people that would start the Civil War don't give a fuck. They are pushed to the point right now where they don't care. That is more acceptable to them than is the alternative of living under the rule of people that they despise. And because people are just always very reticent to look at themselves in any way, shape, or form, all people, doesn't matter which side of political aisle you're on, to those on the left, it will always be, oh, well, it's Trump. It's Trump. They're Trumpies. Once you take away their God King, everything goes back to... No. Trump just represented something. Trump just gave them what they feel was more of a voice. Their feelings, their emotions, and right now, their borderline psychosis goes way, way beyond him. It's going to stay tense for a long time. Jonathan says, yo, sorry, I'm late. What are we talking about? Penis. Well, we weren't talking about penis, but it's always a welcome topic. Carrot says, to me, I see Trump as having a big part when you consider his flag was raised over the Capitol. Also, what's your opinion on the Confederate flag? To me, it's a flag of treason, not heritage treason. As far as, well, as I said, Garrett, there's no question Trump is a conduit for all this. He's given what is almost a voice to this feeling. The point I'm trying to make is people are mistaken in thinking that Trump is the cause. Trump just was an amplifier, that's all. He just amplified it. He is not the cause, no matter what. If Trump leaves office and goes and hides in a bunker and we don't hear from him again, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference going forward. Just like at any point yesterday during that whole thing, if Trump had come out in front of those people and said, no, this is the wrong thing, go home, they would have said, fuck you, and kept going. It's not about him. It's about how much they hate the other side. I see that. I live that every day. And people just don't understand that. The Confederate flag, I don't have any use for the Confederate flag. I do believe, not heritage, but history. I don't believe that the Confederate flag is something that should never be seen again. I think it should be absolutely be recognized in the historical sense that it deserves. But if people see that as part of their heritage, I guess that's their thing. But was it treasonous? Sure, of course it was. They seceded from the Union. Yeah, it was treasonous. But because something is distasteful doesn't mean that you ignore it. Now, if you're talking about should it be flown at Capitol buildings and stuff, no, I don't think so. It's not for no other reason than that is not a flag in any way, shape, or form of any form of government within the United States. You want to fly the American flag, the state flags, that's all fine. But no, I'm not for flying Confederate flags. If people want to do it personally, again, freedom of expression, I think they have every right to. It's not certainly not something I'm going to be doing, but they have the right to. But should it be? I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're asking. Should it be officially recognized anywhere? No, absolutely not. For what? It doesn't represent anything official anymore. Xbox or PlayStation? We've gone. Spazkid and I have gone total PC gaming. But if we do console, Bob Jones, it's PlayStation. If we were to buy a next gen console, it'll be the PS5. Let's see. Stormstar says Trump's whole shtick from the get-go has been to pour gasoline on already simmering flames. It's one of the big reasons why he got elected, if I'm not mistaken. I agree and I disagree. Yes, you're where I am, Stormstar. Yes, he's added to something that was already there without question. No, I think the reason he got elected is similar to what I'm expressing here. It seems that people don't seem to understand that they have a full understanding that Biden got elected, not because Biden's overly popular. I mean, he's an all right dude. He's not anybody that inspires a lot of people, but he got elected because of all the anti-Trump votes. Those, whatever ended up being those 74, 75 million Trump votes, what people don't recognize is the same thing is true in reverse, mine included. Those votes aren't pro-Trump the man, those are anti what the other side brings. That's why I voted for it. I don't want the other side in power because I don't approve of much of anything on their agenda list. And it made it difficult for me because even things like Biden's healthcare proposal, I think is very fair. There's a couple things that with anything, nothing's going to appeal to someone right down the line. I think it's pretty good. My concern is that and I'm lessening on that concern a little bit. He seems to be pretty strong about these things. My concern is, and why I wouldn't vote for him, is simply because I am concerned that he will allow too much of the extreme left to have an influence on the things he does and how he legislates. That's my only concern. If he sticks with what he has stated his official platitudes are, I don't have too much of a problem with it at all. I would still prefer the platitudes of Trump, not Trump the man, the platitudes of Trump, but I don't have a lot of issues with Biden outside of that. Son of a King says Pelosi wants to block Trump from accessing the nuke codes. Well, Son of a King, to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of concerns about that. I think with that, that's some, and again, this is both sides. That's Pelosi grandstanding. At this point, do you know how many levels that it has to go through for Trump to send off a nuke? And where we stand right now, everybody in the military knows that their oath is to the Constitution, not to the president. So if they're given an order from the president that is unconstitutional, they are bound to deny it, defy it, ignore it, whatever the case may be. I have no concerns about that. There's way too many more sane, cooler heads that order would have to go through. I'm not concerned about that. I think with Pelosi and with all politicians, a lot of things are grandstanding. Right now, the more she can hammer onto Trump, she's taking political advantage of it because of what's taken place. She knows she's entrenching the Democrats a little better in public opinion if she just stays and keeps hammering on them. But as far as him having access to nuclear codes, no. Chrome says the people who raided the Capitol were honestly very restrained too. If other groups did it, the Capitol wasn't burnt to the ground. A podium was stolen, broken, some windows, and shit on McConnell's desk. Yeah, and I will say this, and this is my concern. If you get the new administration in, and Chrome is alluding to just what I'm afraid of, and they go after the biggest one I can think of, the powder keg would be anything to do with the Second Amendment. If they come after gun rights, I think what you saw the other day would just, again, it would just be like a day in the park picking daisies compared to what would happen then. Kingdom of Prussia says Trump is an amplifier for people's issues and they blame him because they don't like him. He's 6 out of 10 on my list of best presidents. Yeah, well, he's definitely an amplifier. And that's what I had said earlier. Yeah, Trump, all of this is taking place. Trump didn't invent any of it. As you said, Prussia, he just amplified it. But the thing is, for those on the other side, the opposition of Trump, to accept that would be to say that they understand that there's a significant number of millions of people in this country who just hate them. And I take no pleasure in saying that, but it's a fact. It just is. I mean, as much as the anti-Trumpers hated Trump, that's just the way the other side feels about people like AOC, Pelosi, certainly, and Pelosi I don't even think would be on the top of their list. AOC certainly would, and Swalwell from California, they feel exactly the same way, and they're lashing out the same way. Joseph says, I hate when people say BLM does it for their lives. Most of the rioting, 60 to 80% of damage is smaller businesses. Yeah, well, and the whole comparison now that's become a talking point too. Is look how differently the people that stormed the Capitol were treated than the BLM protesters. Well, that's not true if you actually break it down to what happened. When this first took place in the first 5 hours, the reaction was similar to the first several hours of the riots that erupted during the Floyd protests. They were initially not prepared for something of that magnitude, and they did not immediately send in National Guard troops. The local police were trying to figure out what to do, the same thing they were doing at the Capitol. They didn't want to have gunplay on the Capitol. They didn't want to have gunplay in the streets, and they didn't. The thing that's interesting, I mean, in the 6 hours of that whole thing at the Capitol, one protester was shot and killed. As far as I know, one protester was shot and killed by law enforcement. As far as I know, in the months and months and months of daily protests, no protesters were shot and killed by law enforcement. So I'm not sure where this whole, oh, they treated them completely differently narrative comes from. If these people had continued their protests for months on end, day after day, yeah, you would have seen an entirely different response. There would have been plenty of rubber bullets out there and everything. It's apples and oranges. But again, it's everybody's individual talking point to try and further whatever their agenda may be. Chrome says, I don't support violence, but I think politicians being made afraid of their constituents again isn't a bad thing. They've been comfy to ignore them for too long. They promise things and don't do them. You're not wrong in that respect, Chrome. If nothing else, that was definitely an eye opener to legislators who I do think, as far as in general, and this is entirely both sides of the aisle, I don't think, generally speaking, our best and brightest go into politics, and I think you see it every day. I think a lot of politicians at the very upper end of our government are mediocre thinkers at best. I really do. And I think that brought that home to it. While they were hiding under their desks or whatever, they were getting a dose of, policy, the things I do and the things I don't do does have a significant effect on the people of the country. And I do think they tend to forget that. Kaiser says, from how it seems from Ireland, this stuff went crazy. Oh, it was crazy. Has there ever been such a mob attack on the White House? Well, it was on the Capitol building, my friend, but not, that building had not been breached since the War of 1812. So to give you an idea. Rosa says, I honestly think that many people voted on Biden thinking they were voting against what they hated. 100%, Rosa, 100%. Not realizing that Biden is more pro-police, more pro-rich, and more racist than Trump by a landslide. He's certainly right in that same. I like to think Biden isn't an actual racist, but you make the point that he's a gaffe machine anyway. Biden misspeaks all the time, always has. That's not necessarily an indicator of mental faculty because he's always done that. But yeah, he said some fairly concerning things, and he does seem to get a little bit of a pass on it from the media. It doesn't get brought back up again as it would if it were somebody from the Republican side who had, said things along those lines. Along some of the same lines that Biden has said. Pelosi is Hitler in a costume, Alex says. Job Hunter says, after the Georgia loss, there will be no more Republican president, sadly. America turning into a social communist country will start in January 20th. Nah, Job Hunter. No, that, you get that reaction from people no matter, over the course of our history, the Republican-Democrat control has gone back and forth so many times. And that's always a reaction of whoever was on the losing end. It's the end of it for us. Hell, back in 1972, Nixon beat McGovern. I think McGovern won one state, and people back then said, that's it. Democrats are done. They'll never, you're always going to hear that stuff, but it's always cyclical. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think you're going to see Georgia was an anomaly that was a result of two things: Trump being unpopular and McConnell. If McConnell hadn't blocked that $2,000 stimulus just days prior to that election, I honestly think both those elections would have gone the other way. That pissed people off, understandably, to no end. I still don't know what his game was in doing that, but I think he cost, for sure, at least the one seat in Georgia, and probably both, because that was fresh. That's something you did just days before the election, and people were livid. I do think that you're going to see those seats flip back. And what I base this on are the numbers throughout this election. You have to remember the House was supposed to solidify the Democratic majority, and instead they lost significant seats. And they lost them in all areas where they strongly campaigned on, this is what the left wants to do. They want to turn you, just what you said, turn you socialist. So as long as that part of their party keeps a prominent face on the party, the socialist wing, I think you will see the Republicans continue to make gains. This whole election was an anomaly because of Trump. When you get a cognizant, reasonable candidate on the Republican side, as it stands right now, anyway, we'll see how Biden does over the next couple of years. But as it stands right now, I think you're going to see big Republican gains. And that starts in 2 years with the midterms. Garrett, your stream boss. Garrett says it's a matter of principle. This is the Capitol, and still these people got in with very little resistance. Plus, imagine if they did something like stealing the certification of the election. Well, right, Garrett. But again, and I'm not making excuses for them, but they did not. The Capitol Police did not expect a breach of the building. They expected that everything could be handled out at the perimeter, that as had happened in past demonstrations. There would be flare-ups that they would have to put out. They didn't see that coming for whatever reason. Now, once they're there, you have two choices. You can handle it the way they did and trying just to secure the people inside, doing the best they can, being outnumbered as they were, or you can call in military might or police might and have them start using live rounds. Those are really the only options you had. Had they come in and started using live rounds, the protesters would not have gotten as far into the Capitol, and the nation would be in a current state of civil war. So, I mean, we got to give them a little break in reality, too, as far as the Capitol Police and everything. That's a no-win situation. What were they supposed to do in that moment? Everybody's saying that they failed, but I don't see anybody coming up with cogent ideas of what they could have done differently. These guys were getting the shit kicked out of them, and that's horrible. So it isn't that they wouldn't have wanted to do something stronger. They didn't want that to be the lifting off point of the Civil War. X says, I actually think politicians are intelligent. I do, however, think they're a reflection of the people. And again, anytime I make a statement like that, I always preface that I don't mean across the board. You can't make blanket statements. I don't mean to say and if I did, I apologize. That's not what I meant to say. I don't mean every single politician that has achieved a high level within our government is a moron. I think there are a number of morons among them. And I think even within the intelligent crew, there are a lot of them that are completely detached from the reality that most of us, which the majority of us in here, I'm sure just from talking to all you guys, are middle class, are the people. And I think they're detached from us. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't be willing to go the other side either and say that I think all politicians are intelligent. I disagree completely. And again, that's on both sides of the aisle. I've seen speeches, I've seen things said regularly on both sides of the aisle that make me go, what? I mean, if we want to be fair, I think Josh Hawley on the Republican side, I don't think he's a thinker at all. I think he's kind of a dimwit. And you guys know I think the same thing of AOC. I think she is in way over her head, and I think that my printer sitting here is a better decision maker than her. But I think Kamala Harris, even though I don't agree with a lot of her platitudes, I think she's very, very intelligent woman, very smart, very sharp. And same can be said. I think Mitch McConnell is kind of a turtle douchebag, but I think he's one of the slickest, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, most effective politicians in the world. So, I mean, there's a mixed bag in with anything. Cheap Jump Scare. So, hold on. just jumped right away from me. Cheap jump scare and jumped away. Says, you see the old guy at the Capitol riot who tased himself in the balls to death into a fatal heart attack while trying to steal a painting? No, I didn't see. I heard about that, cheap jump scare. I didn't know there was video of that. All I had heard was that one of the fatalities was somebody who had tased himself. He tased himself in the balls. Jesus, I don't mean to laugh at the dead, but okay, I'm laughing at the dead. You fucking tased yourself in the balls. He shouldn't have been in there in the first place. So, but Jesus Christ, I didn't know there was video of that. Ty says, "Did you hear Tom Lasorda pass?" I did. I saw that just before I started the stream. Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. Never a Dodger fan, but always like, it was hard not to like Tommy Lasorda. If nothing else, you had to love how much Tommy Lasorda hated the San Diego Chicken. Nah, Tom Lasorda was a real baseball man. Whether you're a Dodger fan or not, he was just a genuine, true, hardcore baseball dude. So I respect that. Chrome says politicians think they're an aristocratic class at this point. Most of them have been in power their full lives without challengers. That's true. McCain died in office with 29% approval. That's ridiculous. Yeah. No, I agree. And see, then we get into the tough spot, Chrome. They talk about term limits, but I don't know I agree with that either, because it's like we have a term limit process in place. It's called elections. So I don't understand necessarily the concept of saying, well, you can only do... I understand it as president, because I think as the top spot, I think it's the parties should have a responsibility to show that they have a number of people who appeal to the masses. So I do agree with it presidentially that we have them. But as far as the Congress, I don't necessarily agree, only because we have a means for removing them. You just vote them out. Moneymore says, I think we can all agree that raiding the U.S. Capitol is more egregious than looting a Target, right? Yeah, if you want to break something down to two special instances, sure. But so is that to say that looting a Target is cool? No. I don't understand why there has to be a comparison. Why can't looting a Target be the act of dumb fucks and raiding the U.S. Capitol be the act of dumb fucks? That's what I'm saying. It's always got to be a comparison. Well, what you did is worse than what I did. Well, then you could say, what if you want to break it down to time, Moneymore? Would you say that we can all say that it's more egregious to have violence and protests going on for 3 straight months every day than it is to have had a protest that turned violent that was taken care of in 6 hours? So it all depends on your perspective. It's all stupid, and it's all done by stupid people. It's if you want to say, oh, well, these people here, they committed a riot and it was on federal ground, so they should get more of a punishment than the people who rioted and it was just ripping or burning down somebody's business. No, they should all meet the same. They should all get the same punishment. They're not going to, because where those riots took place are very liberal strongholds, and a bunch of them have already been blanket pardoned by liberal heads of government. So it's not going to, but I think they should both be punished equally. Willie says, I don't think this country will be communist under Biden. Oh, no, because the military would revolt. Without them, the government are just a bunch of rich assholes with no power. No, Biden, I mean, Biden's beliefs, as long as Biden is cognizant enough to stand by his actual beliefs, and I try and tell this to people in my everyday life, those of you on the right, trust me, you're not in any real danger here. Joe Biden isn't a socialist. My only concern with Biden, I told you guys, was that I'm just afraid that I've seen some things in him that makes me wonder about his cognitive abilities, and I don't want him to be unduly influenced by the extremists in his party. That was my concern with him. As far as who he is and where he's been all along, if you're on the right, you should have very little to fear from Joe Biden. Could you see an increase in taxes? Sure. Do I like that? No. I don't like expansion of government. I don't generally am not in favor of expansion of government programs, But it's not going to be any significant degree under Joe Biden as long as Joe Biden remains true to who he is. Let's see. Mr. King of Negativity says, I especially despise the morons who raided the Capitol with MAGA hats and Gadsden flag. Do they not see they're passionately supporting an authoritarian and a flag that's the antithesis of that? Well, again, there's a lot of stupidity in all of Mr. King of Negativity. Those people that raided, we saw the pictures, those people that raided the Capitol, I don't think any of us are looking at them and going, wow, I'm really surprised because he looks really smart. I was surprised with the background of the woman who was shot and killed, because she is someone who you would look at without that context and go, yeah, she seems pretty sharp. But it's still a case of, just like Mr. King of Negativity says, I despise these people. Well, those people were in there, a large part of them, and the people that have any type of support for them are there because they despise the other side. That's where we're at in America right now. We have two sides that absolutely despise one another, and Donald Trump, while amplifying that, has nothing to do with the existence of that feeling. It's going to still be there. Chrome says, at this point, I'll be amazed if Biden lasts a year as president before stepping down for Kamala. She's got a voting record more left-leaning than Bernie. You think so? Chrome, it depends on the issues. I certainly prefer Biden in office than I do to Kamala. However, you have to remember, too, Kamala Harris, unless something dramatic changes, she's not popular even in her own party. What people tend to forget is during the primary, she was polling at 3% when she dropped out. She is not popular. So as far as those on the right, if you have Biden drop out and Kamala take over, I think the presidency is going to be yours in 2024. I got a good chance of it either way, because even if Biden completes his term, I can't imagine he's going to run for re-election. And if he doesn't, I think the Democrats might basically canonize Kamala as their candidate with that vice presidential experience. And I think if the Republicans run anybody halfway decent, I think she loses. Only because I don't think she has enough strong support within her own party. And when you lose that I hate Trump factor, I don't think it'll be enough to carry her. Anthony says, so you're ready for the next Civil War? Yeah, it's as ready as I'm going to get. It's one of those things that I can see what's unfolding. If it happens, I'll deal with it. I'll protect my family and deal with it just like I would deal with anything else that comes down the pipe. Dover Joker says, Republicans and Democrats need to end system of two parties is cursed. It's tough. It's not going to end here under our current form of government, though, my friend. You saw in this last election, whenever you have a third party, they're immediately browbeaten by, if that party tends to have more ideals that lead Democrat, they're browbeaten by the Democrats saying, you're throwing away your vote. This election is too important. Every election, they say, this is too important. You say that till next time. You vote with us this time. And it's always going to be that way. The Democrats and Republicans will beat down, and I don't mean the people in authority, I mean the rank and file members will beat down those third parties because they're afraid of losing votes for their candidate. It's been going on for decades. Money My Mind says, careful we don't get protesters next at the Goose. Johnny says, that woman that was shot in the Capitol doesn't sadden me at all. She took part in an attack on the Constitution. Her 14 years of military service mean nothing after that. I don't know that I'm that extreme on it. Am I surprised by it? Does she have a right to be surprised that she was shot? No, of course not. Am I saddened by it? Well, sure. I mean, I'm saddened by the fact that people were felt they needed to do something like this, and the result of it was somebody was killed. But do I think that the taking of her life was egregious? No. I mean, it was in the heat of that battle. I could see that happening with everything that was going on, and those officers that were charged with protecting the people inside that building. I'm not surprised that it happened. So I'm not surprised. And while I don't rejoice in her death, it's like, you had to understand if you're going to do something like that, that was a risk. Tyler says, I think most people
Oh,
are mad that the lawsuits are being
yeah.
thrown out on technicalities and not on the merit of evidence. Oh, that's got some people upset as well, Tyler. That's, but I do think though, as I said, a lot of it, not all of it. I think a lot of it was way more than just anything to do with Trump or anything to do even with the election itself. It was I being the people that were there that day, hate the other side so much that I'll do whatever it takes to try and get at them, to try and fight them. That's what I'm telling you. You see online all the time, people are like, "Oh, well, they talk Civil War. They just like to talk a big game because once they see the horrors of it, they'll back." No, they won't. I know that these people understand that. They're the type that I don't give a shit if my electricity is cut off and this is, I don't have any of the modern conveniences because they're like, I ain't gonna starve. I know how to grow food and I know how to hunt, and they do. And they're so angry and they hate the other side so much they just don't care. That's just where we're at. Is it true the FBI hasn't arrested anybody? I'm not sure. In my mind, I know there have been like close to 60 arrests, but I'm not sure who made them. I know the FBI is currently investigating. I don't know. I don't want to comment though because I'm not sure if the FBI is responsible for any of the arrests or not.
Oh, yeah.
Rosa says the German psychologist once took a few people and divided them in Group A and Group B. The groups meant nothing. It was just a badge on their clothes. Assigning beds is done in alphabetical order. He found that though the groups mean nothing, Group A people hung out more with Group A people and vice versa. The groups started to feel superior to the others. Now try two groups with ideals. Yeah, I agree with you, Rosa. I've heard of other similar types of social experiments and every time you hear of them, the results are basically just what you outlined. Yeah, that no matter the reason why, people that are grouped together tend to stick together. That's why when you try and explain to people, that's why we have an electoral college. Whether you agree with it or not, it's working the way it was designed to because they didn't want the country to be controlled by whatever groups could just congregate the most closely together. The tech companies have too much power. That's for sure, Alex. Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And the thing of it too is you're going to see things like now Facebook banning Trump and Twitter banning Trump. It's just pouring fuel on the fire. That's all it's doing. And again, Zuckerberg, Twitter, they're under the false impression that once they get past Trump, everything will go back to normal. These people are going to be more enraged than ever. It's not going away anytime soon. It's probably not going away without something much bigger than what happened the other day taking place. Steve says, seeing all that shit going on in America, Steve's from England, in the news, and I've been thinking of you. UK struggling at the moment because not enough hospital beds. I read that, Steve. In London to cope with the virus, so full lockdown again. Yeah, I saw that. And we're just on Chrome, of course, is in Scotland. We're just talking about you guys under the hardcore lockdown. Yeah, I feel for you guys. And you over in England, I know they have the new strain running rampant, the one that is so easily transmissible, and it's here in America. They've seen it in Texas. They actually supposedly found a case not far from me in Saratoga County, New York. So it's getting here as well. It just doesn't seem like the states are doing a particularly good job with distributing these vaccines too. From what I've been able to read, it seems like the federal government did a pretty decent job of getting them out to everybody. And now the states are, really having trouble with distribution. Kaiser says, on a less depressing topic, seems Spotify is supporting anime songwriters and OST composers. Found a number of anime tracks from series that aren't as known to the general public. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's cool. Shrek's daddy. I'm literally shaking. My 1-year-old transgender, non-binary son just asked me, Daddy, is it true that Trump is the greatest president ever? I had to tell him the truth. I said, yes, one of the best moments. It does. And we all know what Shrek is alluding to. There are the stories that you read on social media about people and their children and the things that the children came up and said to the parent. And It just hit them so hard. It's so much bullshit. You laugh so hard at them, and you see them all the time. And it's like, yeah, 5-year-olds don't talk like that. And if they do, your kid's got a problem. Hector says, well, okay, even if you don't notice me and what I put, I still love your vids. Bye. Guys, you got to understand. I don't know why I have to explain this as much as I do. As you see, the chat moves really, really fast. I will look down, I catch a comment, I respond to it, and then I go to another. I can't control if yours happens to be there when I look down for that next comment. Job Hunter is Twitter and Facebook banning Trump is just a middle finger goodbye of all the hearings troubles he put them into. I don't think they're done with that yet, though, Job Hunter. They might think they are, but I don't think there's a significant number of people on the left who feel that those big tech companies need some more serious oversight, and there's a lot of people on the right. Tyler says, I think that the party shouldn't be shown on the ballot. It should be who he likes, so that low information voters have to look into the candidates. Would be interesting, wouldn't it? To make people actually have to look at each individual candidate. I don't know. What do you guys think about what Tyler says? I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, I don't think there's any regulation that requires their party affiliation to be put on there. Or do you think that would just be, well, obviously, both sides, both the Republicans and Democrats, the authorities in those parties would be vehemently against it, so it would probably never be allowed. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea at all. Chrome says, we've got an election coming up soon. If the SNP retains power after last year, I'll lose all faith in this country. Sturgeon's arrested people for calling her a Nazi. Maybe time to move. It's just like, it's sad that it seems like there's no place in the world right now that isn't engulfed in some sort of strife. It really doesn't. Let's see. Garrett says, I don't have an issue with the platform flagging posts as false information because I always check my sources many times, but most don't do that. As a theory, I don't have issue with that, but if you look at how things get flagged, the conservatives do have a case, because I see it myself. Both Facebook and Twitter fact check conservative perspectives much more harshly than they do from the other side, because I've seen plenty of things from the left floated out there that are unsubstantiated and get left to fly. I don't have a problem with them fact checking it. I have an issue when they just start silencing people. If they want to put a little fact checker on there, as they've done, when Trump makes this claim about the election or that claim about the election, and it says our independent fact checkers have determined that this is not necessarily true, or however they put it. Yeah, that's fair. When they start shutting people down altogether, that's when I have a little bit of an issue with it. Lick says he's definitely going to try and run again in 2024. I can see him holding that grudge for 4 years. Oh, I think so, Licks. I think the unfortunate thing, if you're a Republican, is I think that will ruin things for the Republicans, because he will not get enough support to win the nomination again. But then what will happen is his vehement followers will then refuse to support whoever beats him in the primaries. So it will probably lead to a Republican loss. That's why I kind of, you see a lot of people on the left, a lot of the Democrats wanting to impeach him again just so they can get it on record and he can't run. And it's like, I don't think you guys really want that, because the way I see it, what we've seen from this election, where Republicans did so well on Election Day, except for Trump, I think what we saw was a repudiation of him, not of Republicans. So if you were to put him back on the ballot, there's definitely not enough support within the Republican Party to nominate him again, I don't believe. And then again, his hardcore supporters will just not show up on Election Day to vote for the Republican candidate. So I think they're making a mistake by not wanting him to be able to run again. Money on My Mind says, it's bad when Kim Jong-un condemned our actions the other day. Oh, wow. I agree to some degree, Money on My Mind, but I don't really pay any attention to anything that little trollop says. Russia was probably like mad they beat them to the punch. Yeah, Kim Jong-un's just a little douchebag. I mean, he's not in touch with reality in any way, shape, or form. But yes, that is a bad look. I agree with you. I just don't pay any attention to him. I mean, when it comes from Russia or something, despite the fact that they are strong on propaganda, you kind of got to pay attention to what they say. But with Kim Jong-un, yeah. Michael says, Chuck Norris is a joke. I can take him in a fight. Hold on, someone's at my door. Yeah. Even at his age, yeah, I wouldn't want to see him at my door. I'm with you, Michael. King Vlad says, if you like Johnny Ethko, I think you'll like Life After COVID-19. A couple of people have said that. I'll have to go check that out. I did forget about it, King Vlad. It's been mentioned to me a couple times, and until I just read your post, I had forgotten about that. I'll have to look again. Let's see. Tyler says, doesn't matter who is running for the next presidential election. Curtis is going to win the election with 120% of the votes. Yeah. Son of a King says, United States of SJWs. The fact Democrats control all things now is dangerous for the next 4 years. Dangerous? I don't think, no. I would agree with you if Sanders had won. I would say it's very dangerous, yeah. Then I would be on edge. Biden-Harris, will there be policies instituted that I don't like? Yeah, probably. But I don't think it crosses the line into dangerous. And I do think, unless things dramatically shift, which could happen, I think that their advantages in both chambers is short-lived. I think in 2022 they lose them. So it'll be an interesting couple of years. Oink says, haven't been able to catch a stream in a while because my sleep times got so fucked. And now that I finally managed to arrive on time, America has had yet another incident. Good times. Yeah, isn't it, Oink? Jesus Christ. Yeah. The one thing we know for sure is it's never a significant amount of time before something bizarre happens in the U.S. Texas oil boom. U.S. spaz for president. Spaz 2024. You know what, though, guys? Because I talked about that in the past. I had done the Curtis 2024 streams. But let's face it. People aren't interested in seeing something from both sides anyway. No matter how much I take, and I'll be perfectly happy to admit that I lean right, but I think you guys will back me up on that. I do look at all sides of an issue before I make a decision on it, and there are a lot of things where I would be considered left. And I don't think somebody like that has a snowball's chance in hell, because you got two camps now. You're either with us or you're against us type thing. From Kazakhstan? Good to see you, Dark Angel. I'm hoping Trump runs in 2024 as a third-party candidate, Chrome says. He doesn't need to win, but if he runs, that means the following election will have three parties in the debate because he's going to get more than 2%. True. I mean, it will. Obviously, it means that in 2024 the Democrats win. I don't think there's no way that, because you would completely split the Republican vote. So you just got to watch who the Democrats would put forth, if that's a good idea or not, as far as your political leanings, because they would definitely win if that happened. Rosa says, I've got a Belgian friend. He tells me that he's scared to live because the second biggest political party of the Flemish parliament is anti-gay and very fucking extreme. They want to split the country. Yikes. As I said, Rosa, it just seems like there's not any place in the world that isn't experiencing significant strife from within. I think the pandemic has a lot to do with that. Certainly, if there were anything that's going to make life in general more volatile, you couldn't have come up with something to push that more than a global pandemic. Garrett says, off topic, what's your opinion on musicals? Whenever the worst feelings I have bubble up, listening to them helps me feel better without you, big man. Oh, well, thanks, Garrett. My opinion on musicals is like pretty much any genre you could mention. I like them if they're good. You guys know I am a huge fan of Phantom of the Opera. Huge fan. One of my favorite all-time movies is Grease. So there are musicals I like. I'm not a musicals fan per se. It's not like I sit around waiting to see what the next musical that comes out is. But just like with any other genre, if it's good, I'm on board. Yeah, but as far as Phantom is my vibe. Rosa says, I feel sorry for Zuckerberg. I feel like he just wants to do what's right and do his stuff with his platform, but he's getting smashed up by politicians on both sides telling him what to do. I don't agree with feeling sorry for him. Do I think he gets more blame and more hate than he deserves? Yeah. But do I think he has a significant lean and tries to influence his platform that way? Sure he does. So some of what he gets is justified. So I can't ever say I feel sorry for him. Lex says, we're in danger from the outside. Biden's Irish and already threatened to get involved with Brexit. I hadn't even thought about that angle, Lex. I had not even thought about how, which I should have been, how a Biden presidency is going to affect Brexit and the UK in general. Chrome says, at this point, I don't believe there's much of a difference between the Democrats and Republicans. They call it the two wings for a reason. It's the same bird. McConnell high five Kamala for a reason. I think that's true, Chrome. I think outside of the extremists on both parties, yes, I think they're very similar. And I think the extremists from both sides, everything they stand for, to me anyway, is garbage. And again, I'm not singling out one or the other. They're called extremists for a reason, and I think they're an absolute cancer on the world, and that's the extremists on both parties. So if you take them out of the equation, I agree with you. It's the same basic principles. Hey, Jalen. Well, thanks. I appreciate that, my friend. I love the stickers. Job Hunter says, Biden said in the debates that he's the Democratic Party, so having the power over the two branches of government seems kind of red flaggy to me. Also, CCP supports Biden, so there's that. Yeah, I'll tell you, though, Job Hunter, I think sometimes, judging a candidate or an elected official by who supports them, I don't think is entirely fair. They can't control that. Just because, as long as they're upfront about their honest beliefs and platitudes, once you get by that, they can't control who also finds that appealing. Mystic Desiree says, would you vote for Trump again, Curtis? Because I can't in good conscience do it. Well, I never say never. It would depend on who was running against him. If Trump ran against Sanders, yes, I absolutely would vote for Trump again. If Trump were to run, let's say we got 4 years of Biden, and Joe Biden, and this is the big if, completely rebuffs the far left of his party, okay? The extremists of his party says, no, we're doing things my way. Stick your Green New Deal. We're going to go with my plan on, fuck off train, on healthcare, not this absolutely horrific single payer system or anything like that. If he went down that road and proved that for 4 years, yes, I would vote for him over Trump. Yes. But if it were, like I said, I can't say never, because if it were Trump versus Sanders or someone Sanders like, absolutely I would vote for Trump again. I would rather have what went on at the Capitol in my life than I would a Sanders presidency. Brax was just talking about that con job. The dude with the Viking hat at the Capitol looked like a member of the Legion. Yeah, Brax was just saying that same thing to me. Chrome says, China is currently in a financially weak position after COVID and the Three Gorges dam breaking. This is the perfect time to break. That won't happen under Biden. He'll help them grow and capitulate. It's a possibility. I like to think that's not what's going to happen, but it's definitely, it is a possibility, yeah. Mr. King of Negativity, did he just start reading my message and then give up? No, I didn't. You must have said something that was similar to what someone else wrote. Oh, here's your post. Kamala Harris is really unpopular and honestly has the charisma of a wet paper bag. That's true. Remember when Tulsi destroyed her in one of the Democratic debates? I do, Mr. King of Negativity. I do think Kamala Harris is, as I said, I think she's a very intelligent individual. I just don't agree with a lot of what she says. And whether she is or not, personality-wise, I'm not even talking platitudes. I'm talking personality. She comes off as very disingenuous. She has one of the most forced-sounding laughs I've ever heard. And I think that hurts her a lot, too. You know, when she does these look at me, I'm a regular person scenarios out and about with the public, it just doesn't seem genuine at all. At all. America, the show that keeps on giving. Indeed, Drock and Page. Indeed. We do keep on giving. Zodiac says, oh no, Sanders wants to make sure people can afford their fucking medical treatment. How terrible. You people deserve... No, he doesn't. Sanders wants to make sure that the people that contribute, have jobs, and want to get ahead in life take care of those who don't. That's what Sanders wants to do. Because just listen to the first requisites of his Medicare for All, or a single payer. Well, the first thing we got to do is get the cost of prescriptions down. We got to bring this cost line, that cost line. No shit. That's what we have to do regardless. So if you do that, even the current system works. When you go to that single payer system, for instance, I can tell you, I don't know why people are under this impression that all private insurance in America is horrific. My mother has Medicare. My insurance is 100 times better than hers. Insurance can be handled in a way in the private sector that will make it fair and equitable for all. It's just a matter of putting the effort into it. Similar to how it would be a major operation to put in single payer healthcare, except that making private healthcare work for everybody wouldn't bankrupt the economy and drive our tax rates up to outrageous amounts. Right now, a person in America making about 65 grand a year pays, I think they're working, the actual working federal rate of tax, I believe, is 12%. And in many of the countries, the Scandinavian countries, so on and so forth, that have single payer healthcare systems in place, even if it's not the only one available, it's typically more like 40 to 45%. And with that amount of money, I can buy my own healthcare and have a lot left over. The only reason that it's such a huge toll is because you have a lot of people that simply don't want to contribute. We already have a system in place for healthcare for those who cannot contribute. We have a system in place for those who are disabled. We have a system in place for those who just are not able to do the things they need to do to take care of themselves. That's already in place. So the only ones you're looking to help now are taking money from one class to give it to the other class to give them the things that they feel like they should have. Ian says, I would pay high taxes so someone else could actually call and use an ambulance. Well, that's good for you, Ian. Good for you. You want a cookie? Good for you. I will pay taxes now, and I will be glad to pay taxes for anybody, to help out anybody who's out there working a job 40 hours a week, and I've seen lots of them in my life, working their job and just can't quite make ends meet. But until you come up with a plan that addresses that, rather than just saying, okay, well, let's just take everybody's money, pool it, and spread it out evenly. No, because you shouldn't. If you don't want to contribute, if you don't want to work, that's fine. But that's the life you get to lead. You shouldn't be in an equal pool with others because you're not putting in the same effort, period. It's as simple as that. People say Social Security. Well, that's a socialist program. Really? Okay. Do the healthcare like you do Social Security. Because Social Security, you get back from it a direct relation what you paid into it. That's why everybody's Social Security amounts are different. So if you're saying Social Security is the icon, then that would say that when you dole out healthcare, your healthcare quality should be in line with what you put into the system. So I absolutely have issue with that, because it's going to take a lot of middle class people putting in a single payer healthcare and tax them to the point where it's going to be difficult for them to put food on the table. And that will all be at the expense, or excuse me, at the cause of taking care of people who simply don't want to put that effort forth. Tyler says you're going through with the Phantom of the Opera play you were planning to do. Still don't know, Tyler. I've still got so much that I'd have to work out for it, but I'll keep you guys posted. I would like to do that, obviously, but I'll keep you guys posted. Miss Joe says I've lost trust in both parties, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately, Miss Joe, you're not alone. You're not alone. Mr. King of Negativity says hot take. There shouldn't be a president. There should be an executive mini Congress, like 5 people assigned according to votes. Yeah, I've heard, obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon, but it's another system of government that there are certainly some pluses to that type of situation. Sure. Son of a King says, I'm on SSI, and most of the people I know on it lied to the doctor to get it so they can get free money. Makes those of us who have legit disabilities look like we want free money too. I agree, Son of a King. It's unfortunate that the system is molested as much as it is. And just with my daughter having multiple disabilities, we see that the aid that goes out to the disabled people gets dramatically cut every year, and that's unfortunate for them. That's one of the reasons why throughout most of my life, I've worked 2 or 3 jobs. Because, when you want to have certain things, when you want to be able to go on a vacation every year, plus you have a disabled child, there's a lot of extra expense to it. So I know exactly what you guys are talking about. No, I didn't see it. Willie says, did you see that the Cosmopolitan released an article about how being fat is healthy? I'm a healthy motherfucker then. They're doing it because feminism? Oh, geez. Wow, have we gone so far that, listen, I'm a fat guy, and I can tell you it's not healthy. I know the difference in how I feel when I'm in shape as opposed to when I carry extra weight, just in the way you feel. So now it's become body shaming, or the potential for it is so important that we'll just give out bad health advice to make somebody's fifis better. Excuse me. Hi, Cheyenne. Chrome says, Kamala is basically Hillary Clinton's successor. As she favored her as a candidate, they're very similar. They are similar. As far as personalities, though, Chrome, I can deal with Kamala a lot better than I can Hillary. There's not much of anybody in politics I've ever disliked more than Hillary Clinton. So Kamala is definitely, again, not somebody who aligns with me a lot politically, but she's more palatable to me than Hillary. Money Morris says politics suck, have been a punchline for literal decades. Not so funny anymore all of a sudden. I don't know, Money Morris. You can make the case that it just gets funnier. It depends on your sense of humor, I guess. I know. Jack says you're so goddamn healthy, Curtis. I know. Who would have thought? Chrome says it's the fat acceptance movement. People aren't willing to take responsibility for their actions. 100%. That's why I've always said that when people talk about that. Now I'm a fat guy, and people talk about fat shaming. I'm aware that I'm fat. You can't shame me for it. I don't feel any shame for it. You can call me fat all you want. Okay. So I'm fat, so what? I don't feel, it's just that people are I believe people are just way, way, way too oversensitive about pretty much everything nowadays. Is there a need to go out and be mean to people? No, of course not. But to get all that bent about it, and when you see people talking about being bullied online, because I'm supposed to care what some random wingnut on the internet says about me? I'm not that sensitive, I guess. Mr. King of Negativity says, speaking of the vaccine, the U.S. actually doing okay with distribution. It's 4th in the world by people vaccinated. What really surprised me is Israel. They're vaccinated. I heard that. 17% of their population. Yeah, I heard that about Israel. I was surprised by that too, Mr. King of Negativity. Oh, and I'm not saying that we're doing nothing. I don't think we're where we should be with the vaccines, just by how many doses have been in states. And you got the states arguing about stupid little shit about who should get it. Listen, that plan should have been taken care of a long time ago. Let's just start getting it in arms. But no, I'm not. I don't think that the vaccine rollout has been an abysmal failure or anything. I just don't think it's being done as well as it could be. Rosa says, I'm the only Hispanic transgender person I know that isn't fat. I am special. I might be unhealthy. I know one Hispanic transgender person. I'm not saying a name so nobody knows who it is. I don't think she's fat, but she's chunky. So you could be right. You could be right, Rosa. She is chunky. Not as fat as me, but she's chunky. Zero Pace says, Spaz, are you moist? Always. Ricky Erity says, as a fat person, the whole thing is fucking dumb. Like, being fat doesn't make you special. Yeah, I'm with you, pal. I'm a fat guy too. So, and again, you're right. I'm in control whether I am or not. If I want to stop eating shit and start exercising, well, not start exercising, continue exercising, I won't be fat anymore. It's not like, you know, I have a cancer or something that I can't control. It's completely within my own. I have everything I need to control that issue. If I don't take advantage of it, that's on me. In fairness, your government was busy coming up with great lines like, I want 11,800 more votes. Wow. Yeah, Jack, we all know, again, regardless of anything else that might be said about Trump, he's never has been the sharpest knife in the drawer. Rosa says, I have my first McDonald's job right now. It's first regular job I had too. People are complaining about how shit it is to work there. Excuse me. I'm happy. I do. I learn a lot and it will help my CV and will help me to get better jobs. You got the right attitude, Rosa. It's exactly how it happened for me. I started off at McDonald's. Then that didn't pay as much as I wanted to have in my pocket. So I worked at another fast food joint. It was in California, Carl's Jr. So I worked both of them. But pretty soon that work job history got me a job it was a home improvement company called Allwoods, and the pay was better, even though I didn't have any experience in that, you know, in the construction industry and everything. They said, because of your job history, you know, I was a good employee at those two places, we're willing to teach you. So I got that job there. Well, while I was there, they needed truck drivers. So I was like, well, will you guys teach me? Yep. Taught me how to drive a truck. Now I got, back then it wasn't CDL, it was like a class 8 or whatever it was, but I got my truck driving license, and and it just, you kept moving up. Now I got truck driver experience. Now trucking companies pay a lot more than Allwood, yeah. So I went and worked for them. That's how the system has worked, and it works pretty well. Excuse me. Garrett says, honestly though, almost all I have is apathy now. I want a future, but almost every politician in office won't do much. Yet I still care too much about other people and the climate and all that. It'll probably kill me. Well, a lot of people, I think, are in that same space that you're talking about, Garrett, where it's just become too much to bear. And that's unfortunate. We do have to come to the understanding that, at least as we stand right now, and this is from someone who leans right, again, guys, Biden presidency is not going to be a nuclear bomb for conservatives. It just isn't. As long as he stands to his values, which I am having less and less fears that he won't. As long as he stands to his values and what got him elected, are we going to like everything he implements? No, of course not. But don't get me wrong, I don't consider myself a conservative. I'm just saying, as someone who leans right. Hey, the conservatives will throw me out right away as soon as they find out I'm an atheist. Anyway, but he's not a bomb for the right or the extreme right. Rosa says, you know how to drive a truck? I would love to do that now. I'm jealous. Rosa, listen, I cannot recommend that field higher to people, only because if you look at the stats, the pay rate for truck drivers in America has gone up at a more exponential rate than pretty much any other career over the past 10 years. It's because if you drive a truck for a living, you are you have to have a CDL license, a federal license, and you are in a drug and alcohol pool. Well, so many people don't want to be tested anymore. They cannot get drivers. And when it's supply and demand, when you can't get drivers, you have to start paying people more to come and do it. I could not more highly recommend that to anybody as not just a job, as a career. You can make a real good living in that field, and there's a lot of places where the benefits are really good too, because again, they have to do whatever they can to get drivers. So if you're somebody who doesn't mind, getting a piss test every so often, I couldn't recommend it more. And you don't have any big expense of education to go into the field. Now, if you can't find a place who's willing to train you, which is unusual, but if you can't find a place willing to train you, excuse me, you'd probably have to invest a couple thousand in a truck driving school. That's it. But typically, if you're willing to start out like driving a school bus or something, most school bus companies will train you to get the CDL Class B, and then to drive a truck, if you want to drive a tractor trailer, you just got to move it up to an A. Let's see where we are here. Dark Dingo says truck driving will be automated soon. No, it will not be automated soon. I don't know what gives you that impression. The fact that they had a couple of tests of Elon Musk tests that met with mixed results. But no, you have to understand, truck drivers make deliveries to every place in the country. They go down, like right next door to me, they go down these little side roads. They go on dirt roads out into the rural areas. No. And you are not going to have a system in place that's going to allow for that soon. That's just something that, what's his nut there started. What the hell's his name? Ran on the Democrat side for president. That was his big thing, was always automation is going to take over. Automation is going to take over. Even if it became feasible at some point to automate the truck driving industry, it's not I would bet money it's not in the lifetimes of anybody that's in this chat right now. No, there's too many. People see it as, well, you just go down the road. Yeah, if point A is a big warehouse in New York City and point B is a big warehouse in Atlanta, Georgia, sure, you might be able to get away with that. But that's not what truck driving entails. Excuse me. We can't even afford vaccines here in Libya. That's sad, Mike. That's yikes. Shit, he says we can't even secure enough plastic bags. Goddamn Bangladesh makes more money. That's Yang, Andrew Yang. Yes, thank you, Philip. It was Andrew Yang. That's depressing. It really is. I don't even like hearing that people have to deal with things like that. That's rough. Yes, Yang, guys. Yeah, I don't know why he decided. And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Andrew Yang. I think Andrew Yang's a bright kid. But he was as somebody, and again, now here I'm speaking with experience. I retired from that industry. No, automation is not coming to truck driving anytime soon at all. And not only that, there's not enough of an interest in it that anybody's putting any serious money into it. And that's the big factor, because you have to have a whole system of satellites devoted to nothing but that before you can put that into place. That's a pretty significant investment. No, don't. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Willie says, I literally had someone threaten to dox me online. I couldn't have given less of a shit and make sure they knew that. Yeah, that's why I am, Willie. I've had, well, when you have with the YouTube channel and everything, and you have a little bit of a presence online, you get stuff like that all the time. It's like, go the fuck ahead. All I can say to anybody that wants to do me harm so bad that they're going to look me up and find out where I am, A, it's not going to be hard to find me, but B, get ready for it when you get here, because there's a good chance it ain't going to end well for you. Guns Loaded says, trust me, you want to get Class A. They did change the law to where you have to use an electronic log. Did they? Guns Loaded? I knew that. I would actually be interested in those electronic logs. Now there's no more cheating though, huh? Guns Loaded. Because we all used to cheat on our logs. Yeah, you definitely want to get a Class A, but what I was pointing out to them, Guns, was a lot of times the Class B jobs are ones where they're more likely to train you. And that's, school buses, things like that, because they're so desperate for drivers. And at least if you get Class B, you have the CDL. Then you just have to take the test in the rig for a Class A. But yes, you definitely want your Class A, just because it opens up. For those who don't know, Class A encompasses Class B, so it opens up every type for you. But I couldn't recommend that career more. Lick says, on the topic of lockdown, my dad got tested COVID positive the other day. Shit. And now my mom has caught the quarantine crazies. Oh, Lick, sorry to hear that. Oh my God. Goes out saying, but I will be so glad, I'm sure, when all this shit is gone. I hope these vaccines continue working in the path that it seems they are, and we really can eradicate this. My God. Rosa says, I'm planning to get a CDLB and move to Texas, get a year of experience, and go for my CDLA. Then I'm planning to be a truck driver. Perfect plan, Rosa. Perfect plan. Again, I can't recommend it highly enough, and that comes not from outside looking in, from my experiences in the position. I think you'll enjoy it. Truck drivers are some of the funniest stories. True, Cheyenne. Well, trust me, doing that job, you see some really, you're just out and about in so many different situations all the time. You see some pretty cool shit. Right, for me, it was about, $4,100 for tuition, Guns Loaded says. Wow, that's more expensive. Well, of course, how many years am I going back? But even that, even like Guns says, he's talking about getting his Class A to a truck driving school. But even that, think about that. If you've decided that's what you want to do for a career, and it is a good paying, Guns I'm sure will agree with me, it is a good paying career with a lot of opportunity. $4,100 is your total investment. You can't beat that. Can't fucking beat that. Weema Toad says, Curtis, do you want some of my hair? I have a bud of white boy afro going on at the moment. The funny thing is, Weema Toad, I tell people this all the time. I started shaving my head because I hated how thick my hair was. And even now, if I let it go several days, it still comes in pretty, it really infuriates a couple of my friends who have been losing their hair since they were like in high school, but I shave it because there's too much of it. Okay, guys. Oh, I gotta go. Thank you for this Free for All Friday stream. It was fun. I knew where the topic would go today. It was really a lot of fun talking about it with you guys. I really enjoy the give and take we have here. I can't tell you how much. I had a good time in this stream. I always do. But Free for All Fridays are always special because we sprinkle in, even with all the seriousness going on, we sprinkle in just enough. What's the word I want? Stupidity we sprinkle in. which is something I also consider myself well-versed in. But here it is. It's Free for All Friday sticky stuff. It really needs no introduction. It's the best sticky stuff. I don't care what's going on in the world. How many pandemics, how many buildings of meaning throughout the world are being attacked at the moment. Whatever the case may be, it's still Free for All Friday sticky stuff, and it's so good. So get your official sticky stuff fanny packs out because you want to keep this stuff for the week. It ages well. You don't even need to put it in a plastic bag. It's got a lot of preservatives in it. Here comes Pampu Pampu sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you. Free for All Friday sticky stuff because we'll bang, okay? Flashily like Buggy. And as always, most importantly, regardless of whatever else is going on in the world, goosh, 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 goosh.